Part 23. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 221. The investigation of the case went smoother than Chu Qinghuang expected, and he didn't even have to wait until the next morning. When it got dark that night, the ladies who had been invited to the mansion had not yet returned to their respective homes. Because Chu Xuanyi had explained the situation in advance, Prince Rong was not worried, but other mansions were a little restless. Feng Mansion, Uncle Qin's mansion, Prince Kang's mansion, Taifu Yu's mansion, and several other noble ladies' families couldn't help but send people to Prince Qian's mansion to inquire about the situation, and all they got was a unified response. The noble ladies cannot go back until the real culprit who poisoned the eldest princess is found out. Logically speaking, there is no evidence to prove that these noble ladies are the masterminds of the poisoning. Even King Xian has no right to detain noble ladies from aristocratic families. Which of the legitimate daughters who can be invited today does not have a prominent family? The grandfather or father in the family are both important officials in the court. It is no joke that King Xian offended so many people at once. However, the emperor issued an order, and even Prince Qian and his wife could not make the decision. Before the truth was found out, the guards outside Prince Qian's palace were tightly guarded. No one was allowed to leave at will, whether it was the Qin family, the Feng family, or the Yu family. You cannot openly disobey the imperial edict. So they could only send people to inquire about the situation, but they did not dare to protest against it. The weather is hot in summer, and there are many mosquitoes on the lakeside at night. These usually pampered legitimate daughters have suffered. Even though they are wearing ankle-length skirts, they are still unavoidable from the fate of being sucked by mosquitoes. So they complained one after another. I don't know which idiot dared to openly poison the eldest princess of Prince Qian's palace. Wouldn't this kill people? Miss Yongxian of Prince Kang's palace was so angry that she was stared at by mosquitoes. She frowned and resisted the urge to jump. If I let this lady know who it is, I will definitely kick her into the lake and feed her to the fish. What's the point of feeding the fish? Chu Yunyeo waved her fan and suddenly felt a pain in her neck. She slapped her neck fiercely. If I let this princess know who is so stupid, I will definitely catch a few more mosquitoes for her. Feed it and make up for her stupid pig brain. Feng Wanyu stood in the corner of the pavilion with a gloomy expression, and took the initiative to stay away from several people. She couldn't play together because of her position, so it was naturally impossible to get together with them at this time. She just pretended not to hear the complaints from Chu Yongxian and Chu Yunyeo. Anyway, there was no evidence, and in the end, it turned out to be just the result of Axiong's revenge on Prince Qian and his wife. She had nothing to worry about. She just kept convincing herself in her heart that she must stay calm at the critical moment and not mess up her position. I'm talking about Miss Fang Qin Yunzu, the legitimate daughter of the Qin family, turned to look at Feng Wanyu. You said in the morning that you were feeling unwell and wanted to leave early. How come you are still alive and well now? I haven't seen you anywhere. It's uncomfortable. As soon as this statement came out, others laughed. Feeling unwell? I'm afraid it's just an excuse. Her courage will be frightened when Her Royal Highness the eldest princess is around, so she will naturally feel uncomfortable. If I were Miss Feng, I wouldn't be here at all today. Yu Jing'ai said lukewarmly. You have offended the eldest princess recklessly in the past. Aren't you afraid that the eldest princess will slap your face with a whip? Feng Wanyu looked at them expressionlessly and said coldly, Princess Xian personally sent the invitation to the Feng family. I wasn't the one rushing to get it. Yu Jing'ai sneered, you don't know what a guest is dash. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by a sudden burst of footsteps. All the ladies in the pavilion turned to look. Miss Feng Chu Xuanyi strode over with several guards, looking at her calmly, his eyes cold and unsettling. Please come to the front hall to talk with us. Feng Wanyu looked slightly nervous. What does Prince Yi want to say to me? We have found out the truth. It was you who ordered Axion, the maid of Prince Xian's palace, to poison the tea of Her Royal Highness the Princess Chu Xuanyi said word by word with a cold tone. The evidence is conclusive and cannot be denied. What? All the ladies in the pavilion were suddenly startled, and all looked at Feng Wanyu with shock and disbelief in their eyes. Feng Wanyu instigated Axion to poison? This is impossible, right? How did she do it? What did you say? Feng Wanyu's face turned pale, and she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar for a moment. The commander is so bloody and spouting blood. How could I murder the eldest princess? This is impossible. It is impossible. Someone has wronged me. As I said just now, Master Pan and I have solid evidence. If Miss Feng has anything to say, please speak to Master Pan. Chu Xuanyi stepped aside and said, please. Feng Wanyu's whole body was stiff, and her legs were so weak that she couldn't step forward at all. Even though she tried her best to calm down, she couldn't control her fear at this time. How is that possible? No, she did it so perfectly that there was no way she would be discovered. They couldn't find any evidence, nothing. Feng Wanyu tried to convince herself over and over in her heart, but Chu Xuanyi's expression made her feel ominous. She felt that the determination she had persisted in all day finally failed at this moment. Her spirit suddenly collapsed, and her heart was in chaos. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 222. Feng Wanyu was quickly taken to the front hall for questioning. Chu Yunyao watched her brother walk away, frowning, and turned to look at the other ladies. Then can we leave now? Chu Yongxian shook her head. I don't know. It's better to wait. Yu Jing'ai frowned and looked at the direction where Feng Wanyu was taken away. I'm afraid there will be another bloody storm in the imperial city. As soon as these words came out, the other ladies were instantly stunned. Yes. It was only then that they seemed to realize what it meant to poison the eldest princess. They originally thought that it was really just the work of a maid, and the maid fell into a well and died, so they didn't think much about it. But since this matter was involved Feng Wanyu, it is destined that the Feng family will not be able to escape the relationship. The only way to kill the eldest princess is to die. Feng Wanyu is so brave. Qin Yunzu's expression was solemn. No wonder she couldn't get along with us, but today she rushed to join in the fun. It turned out that she wanted to poison the eldest princess and then frame the blame on Princess Xian. It's really vicious, Yu Jing'ai said coldly. It's a pity that Skynet is so sparse and not leaking. The Feng family deserves to be destroyed. Feng Wanyu is so annoying. She is so stupid that she makes us feed mosquitoes here so late at night. It's really hateful. Chu Yunyao shook her fan vigorously to fan the buzzing mosquitoes, and she was very angry. He reached out and grabbed one and stuffed it into Feng Wanyu's mouth. My eldest brother is so good at finding out the truth right away, otherwise we would have to feed the mosquitoes until tomorrow morning. Chu Yongxian said with a sad face, I really want to go home and take a bath. I must have been bitten a lot. The princess is here. The noble ladies perked up and turned around to see Princess Xian coming with several maids. She looked very tired. She must have been busy until now and finally took a breather. Cousin Qin Yunzu looked at Princess Xian who walked into the pavilion, frowned and said, is it really Feng Wanyu who poisoned me? Princess Xian's expression was not good looking. She looked haggard after a long day of stress. Although the truth had been revealed at this time, her expression still looked a little gloomy. Yes, she nodded, it is indeed Feng Wanyu. Yu Jing'ai was puzzled. Sister, why did Feng Wanyu get in touch with Axiong? It is understandable that Feng Wanyu hates Chu Qinghuang. After all, she and her eldest brother have suffered losses at the hands of Chu Qinghuang, but how did the legitimate daughter of the Feng family get involved with the maid of Prince Xian's palace? Princess Xian didn't say anything. She was not in the mood to talk about Axiong right now. When she mentioned that bitch, she was filled with anger and resentment. She wanted to drag her out and whip her corpse 300 times, crushing her bones and scattering ashes. I have really wronged you today. Princess Xian looked gloomy. Go back and rest early. The prince and I will hold a banquet to entertain you some other day, as an apology to you. Well, there's no need to apologize. The princess doesn't want to see this happen. Chu Yunyeo waved her hand nonchalantly. Fortunately, we found out the mastermind and cleared the prince and princess, so we can follow suit. Everyone is happy when the suspicion is cleared. Everyone should be happy. Indeed, everyone should be happy. But Princess Xian really couldn't be happy. From the moment she heard that Axion committed suicide by throwing herself into a well, she had been waiting in fear to find out the truth. She even wanted to seal the mouths of the maids around her to stop them from talking nonsense, but Master Pen actually did not allow anyone else to investigate the case. Excuse me, he detained the maid alone for questioning. She had no idea what those dead girls said to him. There is almost no doubt that Axiong is alone and has no relatives or friends. The reason why she is willing to be used by Feng Wanyu must be out of revenge. She didn't care about Axiong's death. What she cared about was what Master Pen wrote in the confession before the emperor. When she thought of this, she couldn't help but feel uneasy. The noble ladies returned home one after another, and all the houses heaved a sigh of relief, but the Feng family was like a bolt from the blue, and the pot suddenly exploded. At the same time, the news quickly flew to various mansions as if it had wings. After bathing, Chu Qinghuang, who was lying on the bed but had not yet fallen asleep, felt a gust of wind blow by, and then saw Hongyu rushing in. "Your Highness, good news. Good news." Fukang jumped up from the bed, his whole body like an unsheathed sword. The edge was cold and frightening, and the strong wind swept by his palms rushed straight towards Hongyu. Hongyu quickly retreated, shouting angrily, "I'm not an assassin. I have something important to report." Fukang Chu Qinghuang said calmly, "Back off." Fukang glanced coldly at Hongyu, who was becoming more and more unruly, and retreated to the bedside without saying a word. Hongyu groaned in anger, and angrily smoothed her hair and robe. "I suspect you just want to avenge yourself." Fukang ignored him, his attitude as cold as frost. "Did Prince Xian's mansion find out the truth?" Chu Qinghuang said, obviously having guessed what Hongyu was going to report, and was inevitably a little surprised. "It's pretty fast." She thought she would have to find out at least until tomorrow. "Found it." Hongyu nodded with excitement on his face. "Your Highness must not have guessed who helped a lot." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 223. Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows. "Are you trying to impress me?" "No." Hongyu quickly shook his head. "I just think that Ziki is too stupid, leaving me useless." "Tell the important point." Hongyu said, "The point is that Chu Tianyan killed his relatives righteously and exposed Feng Wanyu." Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. "It's indeed stupid. I suspect that he is possessed by something." Hongyu really found it unbelievable. The people who used to wish they were tied to the Feng family are now being kicked away by King Zhenbei. Not only would he be kicked away, he would also be put to death. Tisk. When it comes to being ruthless, the princes of the Ziki royal family are better than each other. They are not good things. Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment and said in a calm voice, "I know what Chu Tianyan wants to do." Hongyu was surprised. "Your Highness knows." Chu Qinghuang hummed, "You don't need to pay attention to this matter. Go back and rest." Hongyu said "Oh," turned around and walked out. However, as soon as he stepped out of the threshold, he suddenly thought of something and slowly stepped back. His eyes fell on Fukang. Hongyu looked up and down for a while, frowning. "You." Fu Kang looked at him coldly. Is there anything else? Chu Qinghuang's eyes fell on him, her eyes were particularly calm. Hong Yu met her cold eyes and quickly shook his head. It's okay. Then he walked out obediently. Fu Kang stared at the door for a while, then turned to look at Chu Qinghuang. What are you looking at? Fu Kang pursed his lips and remained silent for a moment, then slowly shook his head and returned to the bed without saying a word. He should have noticed. Huh? Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows. What do you see? Fu Kang lowered his eyes. This subordinate is disheveled and slept on the master's bed. So what are you worried about? Fu Kang pursed her thin lips and said, it will affect the master's reputation. Chu Qinghuang exclaimed, it turns out that there is such a thing as honor in this palace. Fu Kang remained silent. Since you know that it will affect my reputation, you still continue to stay in my bed. Fu Kang lowered his head and dug into the mattress with his fingertips. Why don't you speak? Chu Qinghuang looked at him and said in a calm voice, are you mute? Fu Kang silently raised his head to look at her, then lowered his head silently. Still silent. As if to insist on silence to the end. Chu Qinghuang raised her hand and pinched his face. Didn't you like to say things like subordinates deserve to die and subordinates know their mistakes? Why did you suddenly become mute today? Fu Kang protested in a low voice, this subordinate is not mute. Are you refuting me? I don't dare, Fu Kang said, and then added, my subordinates are already the master's people, and others have no right to comment. Chu Qinghuang said nothing. The subordinate is not afraid of affecting the master's reputation, nor is he afraid of being discovered. Fu Kang whispered, the subordinate's body has been seen and touched by the master. The master should be responsible for the subordinate. The last two words were spoken as low as the buzz of mosquitoes. I don't know whether it was because of guilt or shame. If Chu Qinghuang didn't have sharp ears, I might not have been able to hear what he said. Responsible. Chu Qinghuang's expression was subtle. Master touched his subordinate's face, and. Fu Kang sat on his knees, his slender figure appeared docile and well-behaved. I also molested my subordinate, so I am responsible for you. The roots of Xanthium fusilifolia were slightly red, and he nodded his head in detail, yes. Chu Qinghuang's voice was cold, with a hint of nonchalance, how to be responsible. Fu Kang was confused, how could he be responsible? He frowned and thought, as if he was a little embarrassed. Usually when talking about such topics, men are responsible for women. Generally speaking, being responsible means marrying the other person. I have never seen a woman be responsible for a man. Fu Kang frowned. Do you want him to marry his master? Isn't that the prince consort? Fu Kang's expression was slightly stunned, and he couldn't help but feel a little sad. With his humble status, how could he be qualified to become his master's consort? Do you want to be the master's servant? He couldn't help but think that the master had never been intimate with the servants in the backyard. If he became a servant, would he be like them? When he thought of this, he felt that there was nothing good about serving the king. Fu Kang then fell into a dilemma. Otherwise, should we continue to be the master's personal bodyguard? Only a personal bodyguard can be inseparable from his master, and can also prevent other men from approaching his master by virtue of his status. Although the master has so many servants, no one has ever behaved intimately. The more Fu Kang thought about it, the more he felt that shadow guard was better. And only he could sleep on the master's bed at night. The master had only pinched his face and molested him, cough. Fu Kang calmed down, not daring to think about the mess anymore. He lowered his eyebrows and said respectfully, this subordinate speaks freely. Please forgive me, master. Just treat it as, just pretend that I am talking nonsense. $window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, Tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 224. What does mean when he is talking nonsense? Chu Qing Huang looked at him expressionlessly. As a shadow guard, Fu Kang became more and more courageous, with more and more thoughts in his mind. He showed more and more gentle and obedient side in front of Chu Qing Huang, and his emotions became more and more exposed. This exposure is not only shown in speech and behavior, but also in the deeper feelings hidden in his heart. Chu Qing Huang couldn't help but ponder. What exactly does she think of Fu Kang? At first, out of pity and regret, mixed with a little bit of heartache, she wanted to compensate him, and then indulged him step by step to cross the line, until now, within a few months, she had developed feelings that a shadow guard shouldn't have, whether it was from his words and deeds, or his thoughts that he had never spoken out. Chu Qing Huang was sure that Fu Kang did have a love for her. Today's result is all the result of her indulgence, whether it is crossing the line or not distinguishing between superiors and subordinates. It's not Fu Kang's fault, the responsibility lies with her. She acquiesced. What she needs to consider now is not Fu Kang's feelings, but herself. As a person whose soul has traveled to Chu Qing Huang's body, she is much older than 15 years old. Although she is not keen on love between men and women, she is not ignorant of the world. Even when facing feelings, she is rational. She can rationally analyze her inner thoughts, rationally examine other people's feelings towards her, and soberly judge whether she is willing to accept such feelings. Is she willing to let Fu Kang stay by her side for a lifetime, and think this is a pleasant experience? Chu Qing Huang raised her hand and rubbed her eyebrows. See, she said that feelings are annoying things. They always make people think about things involuntarily, easily control people's emotions, and occupy the mind that they dare not occupy. Very annoying. Chu Qing Huang frowned, and her eyes fell on Fu Kang's head inadvertently. She felt that this guy was really a pleasing decoration. Weapon. Seeing him makes her feel very pleasing to the eye, and it is also very convenient to use him. Not only can he kill people, he is also gentle and obedient, and he is also good at massage. Well, okay. At least for now, she has not lost herself in love, nor has she done anything against her principles because of love. It should not happen in the future. As for whether her status is not suitable, Chu Qing Huang frowned slightly. She just has no plans to get married for the time being. If she has such an idea in the future, her status is probably the last thing to consider. Her confidence is enough to support her to ignore those unimportant factors. If her marriage is not up to her, wouldn't other ambitions be even more ridiculous? Thinking of this, she said calmly, Fu Kang. Fu Kang raised his eyes. Will you always listen to me in the future? Fu Kang was startled, met Chu Qing Huang's indifferent eyes, and nodded slowly and firmly, yes. Well, Chu Qing Huang replied lazily, go to sleep. That's it for the time being. Anyway, she didn't plan to change other shadow guards, and Fu Kang would always accompany her in the future. If you want to get married. I don't have any idea of getting married yet. Chu Qing Huang tilted her head and looked at Fu Kang, who was already lying down, and said casually, if I want to get married in the future, I will just marry you and let you be my consort. Fu Kang's body froze, and he seemed to be struck by lightning, and he couldn't react for a long time. Stupid, Chu Qing Huang frowned. Fu Kang sat up like lightning, staring at Chu Qing Huang in disbelief. What did the master say? Chu Qing Huang didn't say anything, just looked at him calmly. Master Fu Kang lowered his head and began to hold his trouser legs again. I may have heard something wrong. You didn't hear it wrong, Chu Qing Huang said calmly. I said I have no plans to get married for the time being. If I have this idea in the future, I will marry you as my husband. Fu Kang froze. I am of humble status. You mean I don't want to? No, I'm not. Fu Kang shook his head hurriedly. I'm not. If you are willing, shut up. Chu King Huang's voice was cold and commanding. Go to sleep. Yes. Fu Kang quickly lay down, so nervous that he even forgot to pull the blanket, and didn't know where to put his hands. The current emperor is not the biological son of the previous emperor. Chu Qing Huang raised his hand to put down the curtain, and then lay down. Chu Tianyan knew about this, and he was paranoid and ridiculously determined that he was the orthodox. He is now eager to overthrow the emperor and sit in that position himself. Fu Kang calmed down slightly and replied, yes. Business can make him calm down quickly, and his mind is no longer in chaos. The Feng family was originally Chu Tianyan's most powerful backing. All Chu Tianyan's hopes were in the Feng family, but after the letter involved the life experience of the emperor and Feng Ziyi, the Feng family became a thorn in Chu Tianyan's heart. Chu Qing Huang showed sarcasm. Do you understand what I mean? Fu Kang pondered for a moment. Master means that Chu Tianyan has the idea of usurping the throne, but he is worried that after revealing the emperor's life experience, the Feng family will change their position and become the emperor's backing. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 225. Chu Qing Huang hummed. I even suspect that Feng Wanyu's instigation of Axiang's poisoning was Chu Tianyan's plan. After the incident, he ordered someone to expose it secretly, and then achieved the goal of getting rid of the Feng family faster. Fu Kang said, I will go find out the truth tomorrow. No need. Chu Qing Huang said calmly, there is no need to waste energy on unimportant things. Chu Tianyan is speeding forward on the road to death. We can just watch quietly. Yes. The emperor was not of orthodox royal blood. This was the biggest bargaining chip Chu Tianyan held. However, if he really wants to use this bargaining chip to usurp the throne, he must let everyone know that the emperor is fake and let others know his true life experience. Once the high-ranking prime minister knew that the current emperor was related to him by blood, would he fight to the death to protect him? Chu Tianyan and Feng Xiang were once on the same boat, and each knew the other's ins and outs. Once they became hostile in the future, it was still unclear who would win. So this is the reason why Chu Tianyan killed relatives for justice and let people expose Feng Wanyu for instigating Axiang to poison. He was eager to get rid of the Feng family because he was afraid that after the emperor's identity was revealed, the Feng family would help the emperor deal with him. He wanted to get rid of his future powerful enemies in advance and make the emperor become a lonely man who was betrayed by his relatives. He calculated everything well. Especially after receiving the promised support from the king of Zhenbei, he felt that he had a winning chance. The throne was very close at hand. As long as he sat on it, he would become the supreme emperor, and thousands of subjects in the world would bow to him. But there are too many unsatisfactory things in this world, and self-righteous fantasies can only be fantasies after all. As night fell, the palace was still brightly lit. Come here. Thunderous shouts suddenly sounded in the royal study. With a cold and murderous air, the legitimate daughter of the Feng family instigated the maid of Prince Xian's palace to try to poison the eldest princess to frame Prince Xian. The evidence is conclusive and the crime is unforgivable. Today he stripped Feng Xiang of his official position and sent his whole family to prison. After 3 days, they were sent to the border gate. The descendants of the Feng family will never be able to return to the capital. When the decree comes out, the forbidden army moves. Chu Xuanyi, who had been busy all day, accepted the order as soon as he finished investigating the case, led the imperial army out of the palace without stopping, and quickly surrounded the Feng family. Homes were ransacked, seized, arrested, and imprisoned. It was another bloody night. Everyone was as silent as a cicada, and there was a roar in the imperial city. At this time, King Xian asked to see him. The emperor frowned. What is he doing here at this time? When he thought of what happened in Prince Xian's mansion, he became extremely angry. If Prince Xian hadn't been eager to win over Qing Huang, how could there have been so many messy things? Reporting to the emperor, His Highness Prince Xian said that he has something urgent to ask for. The emperor said coldly, "Let him come in." "Yes." Chu Tianqiu straightened his robes, held a stack of files and account books in his hands, and walked into the imperial study with lowered eyebrows. "My son, I see my father, long live, long live, long live." The emperor became angry when he saw him. He sat on the dragon throne and said coldly, "It's so late, why do you want to see me?" "To inform my father, I have recently obtained some evidence related to Feng Xiang." "Please take a look at it." King Xian knelt on the ground and held up the things in his hands. "These are all evidence of corruption, bribery, and cliques formed by Feng Xiang during his tenure, evidence of guilt." The emperor's eyebrows darkened slightly. "Where did you get these evidences?" "Yes, I knew that Prime Minister Feng had made mistakes early on, but because there was no evidence, I didn't dare to impeach my father." Chu Tianqiu said respectfully, "My son cares about the country and has always wanted to serve his father. I share my worries and work, but I am bound by the delicate situation in the court, so I can only collect evidence secretly, thinking that I will report it to my father when the evidence is solid, and hope that my father will be aware of it." The emperor looked at him deeply. "In that case, thank you for your hard work." When Chen Hai heard this, he walked over and took the files and account books from King Xian's hand, turned around and presented them to the imperial court. "To share my father's worries, I dare not express my sorrow." Chu Tianqiu spoke sincerely, and after speaking, he took the opportunity to plead guilty. Today the princess invited Kime to the palace to enjoy the flowers, but she did not expect that a poisoning incident would occur. "I and the princess, I made a mistake in the inspection and almost put seventh sister in danger. I really deserve to be punished by my father." The emperor said calmly, "You have indeed failed in your duty. I deserve to die." King Xian apologized again. "Early tomorrow morning I will prepare supplements, take the princess to visit Kime, and sincerely apologize to Kime." The emperor said calmly, "Coming to the door to apologize is just an attitude, but Qing Huang needs to rest now. If she doesn't come to see the guests, you can't force her." "My son understands, father, don't worry." The emperor waved his hand. "My son, please retire." King Xian saluted. "Father, please rest earlier. Don't be too tired." The emperor ignored this nonsense. After King Xian left, he looked at the incriminating evidence placed on the case and asked calmly, "Chen Hai, do you think these evidences were really found by King Xian himself?" "I don't dare to make random guesses." Chen Hai bowed, "but since His Highness King Xian submitted it, it must have been found by King Xian. Otherwise, who would give such credit to others?" The emperor smiled lightly. "Yes, who would give such credit to others?" So, Qing Huang was trapped by Tianqiu. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but glance at Chen Hai and secretly wondered, was the female phoenix ascending the throne mentioned by Chen Hai before really just a casual comment? Why does it seem that Qing Huang has no thoughts in this regard now, and can even give the credit to others? Dollar window. Taboola equals window. Taboola. Taboola.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, Taboola below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 226. I want to see the eldest princess. The torch held high illuminated Feng Jinzi's handsome but pale face. He looked at Chu Xuanyi and spoke calmly and firmly, "Prince Lai Yi, please inform me." Chu Xuanyi's expression was cold. The eldest princess has gone to bed at this time and no one is allowed to see her. I want to see the eldest princess. Feng Jinzi gritted her teeth and repeated word by word, I want to ask her why she wanted to kill all the Feng family. Even if she hates me, she shouldn't implicate innocent people. The poison in the eldest princess's teacup was thrown by Miss Feng. The case was investigated by Master Pen and this prince, and the decree was given by the Emperor. Chu Xuanyi's voice was calm and indifferent, without the slightest emotion. After the eldest princess detoxified, she was escorted back to the princess's residence. The case had nothing to do with her from beginning to end. Mr. Feng was afraid that he had blamed the wrong person. Feng Jin choked, and his face instantly darkened. I don't believe it. Mr. Feng, instead of blaming the eldest princess here, why not ask your sister who gave her the heartbroken grass and who came up with the idea of poisoning the eldest princess? Chu Xuanyi said, waving his hand. Take away. The sound of shackles was clear. The wailing sounds of the Feng family members continued, mixed with Madame Feng's curses at Feng Wanyu. However, no matter whether it was blaming or scolding, it was of no use at this time. That night, the entire Feng family was taken to the prison, and what awaited them was a 1,000-mile exile 3 days later. Exile. Chu Tianyan's face changed slightly in the study room of King Jinjun. Why not the death penalty? I don't know, this is the emperor's decree. Chu Tianyan sat in a chair with a sinister look on his face. The Feng family must die. The Ling family and the Hong family were both imprisoned in the Sky Prison waiting to be executed by Queen Xiu. How could the Feng family survive? Exile means there is still a chance for a comeback. If the emperor one day learns of his life experience, he will definitely issue an order to pardon the Feng family and restore Prime Minister Feng to his original position. The Feng family must die. Chu Tianyan's expression was gloomy. Adai, is there any way to make my father change his mind? Adai made tea and brought it over. Changing your mind is not necessarily a good thing. Chu Tianyan frowned. How to say? If the Feng family is sentenced to death, they will have to wait until autumn before they can be executed. Adai poured tea for him. It's only June now, and we have to wait at least 3 months. Many changes will happen within 3 months. Which means more risks for His Highness. Chu Tianyan said nothing, because what Adai said made sense. It's difficult to kill someone in a prison, but if something unexpected happens during exile, it's extremely normal. Adai smiled faintly. Wouldn't it be more foolproof if the Feng family's children were accidentally killed or injured during the exile? Chu Tianyan frowned. Is this safe? The official missions for escorting the exiled prisoners have not been decided yet, but I think they are all ordinary official missions. As long as we hire some killers in advance to ambush on the road, it will be easy to kill a few Feng family members. Adai pondered. After killing someone, you can stay. The next token serves as evidence. Evidence. Adai nodded. It would be better if it was the eldest princess's token. When the time comes, everyone will think that the eldest princess hates Feng Jinzi because of her love, and then sends people to kill the Feng family. All the spearheads will be pointed at her. Regardless, will the emperor finally punish her? At least we can get rid of the suspicion. Chu Tianyan was silent and suddenly smiled. Aunt Adai is still smart. With Aunt Adai by my side, why worry about failing to achieve great success? Hearing this, Adai lowered her eyebrows and said with a smile, Your Highness praises me too much, so I can only come up with ideas. Whether I can succeed or not depends on your Highness. Chu Tianyan breathed a sigh of relief. Chu Qinghuang was poisoned in Prince Qian's mansion. It was finally found out that the person who wanted to murder the eldest princess was the legitimate daughter of the Feng family. Just one thing easily caused Chu Qinghuang to be poisoned. Prince Qian's mansion. Things got into trouble and the Feng family was eradicated. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. It can be regarded as giving him a bad breath. Heartbreak grass is highly poisonous. Even if Chu Qinghuang takes the detoxification pill in time, it will inevitably cause some harm to the body. Chu Tianyan sneered. One foot stepped into the gate of hell and was dragged back. I don't believe that she not afraid at all. Let's see if she has a better memory in the future. Ade said nothing. While I was losing power, Prince Xian and his wife couldn't wait to hold a banquet to win over Chu Qinghuang. They wanted to gain a favorable bargaining chip for themselves in the fight for the throne. I refused to let him do so. The first time he hosted a banquet for Chu Qinghuang, he almost caused a murder case. He wanted to see what excuse King Xian and his wife would dare to use to show their goodwill to Chu Qinghuang next time. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 227. Early the next morning, King Xian and his wife indeed came to visit Qinghuang with supplements. Only they knew in their hearts that this was to apologize, and secondly to thank Chu Qinghuang for the evidence that Chu Qinghuang gave him. Although those evidences were no longer the cause of the Feng family's downfall, they at least allowed his father to see him. Achievements. Under the premise that the other two princes have lost power one after another, as long as he, the queen's legitimate son, behaves a little better, his father will be more satisfied and happy with him. When the time comes, I don't have to worry about his father not making him the crown prince. But Chu Qinghuang really didn't have time to see him. The butler kept the tonic and said a few respectful and polite words. King Xian understood this, and then went home with the princess contentedly. The Feng family was imprisoned and sentenced to exile. Officials from Feng Xiang's party could not sit still and knelt outside Yuqian Palace early in the morning to plead for mercy. How could a frail woman, the legitimate daughter of the Feng family, poison her and murder the eldest princess? There must be something hidden in it. Please let your majesty know for sure. Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, was a guest in Prince Xian's mansion and was poisoned in Prince Xian's mansion. The person who poisoned was clearly the maid of Prince Xian's mansion. How could it involve the Feng family? Your Majesty, this matter must be investigated in detail. We must not unjustly accuse a loyal minister. Please, Your Majesty, see clearly. However, the emperor directly asked people to dump the pile of evidence in front of them. Whoever dares to plead for the Feng family again will be guilty of the same crime as them and be sent to the frontier together. The pleas for mercy suddenly stopped. 3 days later, all the men of the Feng family, headed by Feng Xiang and his son, were put in heavy shackles, while the weak women and children were put in light shackles, and were escorted out of the capital in front of almost everyone in the city. The prosperity of the Prime Minister's house for a generation came to an end. In the next few days, Chu Qinghuang rested in the mansion on the grounds of feeling unwell. He still got up early every day to practice martial arts, flexed his muscles and bones, taught how to play the piano, chose a cool place to escape the summer heat, and tasted ice-cold fruits. Sour plum juice is quite pleasant. But these peaceful and quiet days are destined to be short-lived. King Zhenbei has been in Beijing for several days with his 2 children. In the past 2 days, he has been keeping a low profile due to the affairs of the Feng family. When the Feng family was in trouble, he finally remembered that he had a bastard who was still staying in the backyard of Her Royal Highness the eldest princess. So he showed his majesty as a father and ordered, "Go to the eldest princess's palace to tell Qi Ling. It has been so many days since I have been in the capital, and he has not even shown his face. Does he still see the existence of my father in his eyes?" The guard commander around King Zhenbei arrived at the eldest princess's mansion and explained the situation to the housekeeper, and Lu Jun went to ask for instructions from the eldest princess. King Zhenbei wants to see Qi Ling. Chu Qinghuang leaned against the beauty and raised her eyebrows lazily. Is it possible that my servant can be seen by anyone who wants to? Lu Jun lowered his head, then your subordinate returned to him. Chu Qinghuang hummed, "Go and tell him that the rules of the eldest princess's mansion are strict. Without permission from this palace, the servants are not allowed to enter or leave the gate of the eldest princess's mansion at will. If King Zhenbei wants to see his son, let him come in person." Yes, Lu Jun took the order and left. Chu Qing Huang narrowed her eyes, picked up the teacup, and took a sip of herbal tea. The sound of the piano stopped slightly. Chu Qing Huang raised his eyes and looked at Fukang. I told you to stop. Fukang winced, and quickly concentrated on playing the piano. His long fingers plucked the strings, the airflow surged, and ripples appeared on the lake. Chu Qing Huang looked at him silently. The young man has a majestic figure. He is dressed cleanly in white today. He is sitting on the floor in front of the piano and playing. He looks like a handsome nobleman, with outstanding appearance and good bearing. It's really pleasing to look at. Chu Qing Huang raised her hand to support her chin and casually admired the young man's beauty. The more she looked at it, the more satisfied she became. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 228. Before King Zhenbei went to the fiefdom, he had a mansion in the imperial city, but his mansion was smaller in scale than the princes and dignitaries. It was only a third-rank general's mansion. A general who was named a vassal king was not allowed to return to the capital without an imperial edict. However, the king of Zhenbei had to return to the capital every year to report on his duties. During the period of reporting on his duties, he lived in his own general's mansion and did not need to find another residence. This time is no exception. When the news reached the general's mansion, King Zhenbei was instantly furious. If I want to see my son, do I still have to abide by the rules of the eldest princess? A little yellow-haired girl dared to put on airs in front of him. The guard who reported back hesitated. That's what the guard commander of the princess's mansion said. In my opinion, this may not be the intention of the eldest princess at all, Qi Yun said coldly. Maybe it was the idea of that bitch Qi Ling, relying on the power of the eldest princess to show off her power in front of her father? Look at me, don't teach him a lesson. King Zhenbei was silent for a moment. He had left the imperial city early and had not met Chu Qing Huang many times. The last time he met, she was still a little girl with a violent temper and no brains. The king of Zhenbei had never had a good impression of her. Unexpectedly, she was granted the title of eldest princess at the age of 15. Even if the spies reported that she led the imperial army to raid Hong Shangshu's mansion and the Ling family, the king of Zhenbei could not equate these actions with a 15-year-old girl, let alone be afraid of them. After pondering for a moment, he summoned the spies and asked, "How many servants are there in the backyard of Her Royal Highness the Princess?" "There used to be 4. I just received a new one a few days ago. Now there are 5 servants." King Zhenbei frowned. "There are more concubines than I have. It is simply shocking that a princess can be so absurd and unethical." The spy didn't dare to speak. In the days since King Zhenbei returned to Beijing, he specially sent 2 spies to find out some gossip, including the daily movements of the recently popular eldest princess and several princes, in order to know ourselves and the enemy, so that we can make better decisions at critical moments. Response. Upon hearing the eldest princess's ridiculous behavior, King Zhenbei remained silent for a moment with a sullen face, and then asked, "Who is her favorite person recently?" Before the prince came to Beijing, the eldest princess liked Wen Zhan, the concubine of the Wen family, and specially promoted Wen Zhan's father to be the Minister of Household Affairs. "Absurd," King Zhenbei yelled angrily. The spy whispered, "The eldest princess is now an evil spirit that everyone in the civil and military circles is wary of. The prince must not show his dissatisfaction in front of the eldest princess." He was a master who ransacked his house whenever he disagreed, and every time he ransacked his house, a large amount of gold and silver treasures were confiscated. The evidence was conclusive and left people unable to argue. All civil and military officials who have a little bit of guilt and lack of confidence will never dare to mess with that evil god at this time. "Are I still afraid of him?" King Zhenbei said indifferently. "Let me go there in person? How can she, an unweaned girl with yellow hair, have such a big reputation? What a arrogance! The spy lowered his head and said nothing. What he actually wanted to say was that the eldest princess really seemed to have such a great reputation. After all, a few months ago, some of the noble disciples made trouble and offended the eldest princess. Even several princes and princes from the royal family came to apologize in person, but it turned out that it was the princess who was the company commander. Didn't even see his face. Chi-yun, go to the eldest princess's mansion, King Genbei ordered. I want to see what she has to offer. Chi-yun had this intention, yes. King Genbei frowned, pondered for a while, and finally decided to be cautious. You are not allowed to be rude after you go to the eldest princess's mansion. The etiquette of a monarch and his ministers should be observed. Don't let the eldest princess get the advantage. Father, don't worry, Chi-yun said, I know what to do. He has his own way of dealing with women. Chi-yun then turned around and walked out, taking only 2 personal guards with him, one named Zuifeng and the other named Lightning. The 3 of them arrived at the eldest princess's mansion soon, politely explained their purpose of coming, and the housekeeper respectfully welcomed him into the mansion. Master Chi, please have tea. Chi-yun said, I want to see the eldest princess. The housekeeper smiled and said, I have already sent someone to report it. Please wait a moment, Mr. Chi. Then you ask Chi Ling to come over to see me first, Chi-yun said calmly, I am his elder brother. The housekeeper was a little embarrassed. Your Majesty is not allowed to leave the west courtyard without the permission of the eldest princess. Please forgive me, Mr. Chi. When Chi-yun heard this, he immediately frowned. There is no need to use such an excuse to deal with me. I have already heard that Chi Ling often goes to the Zishan military camp to train troops and horses for Her Royal Highness the Princess. The housekeeper exclaimed, is there such a thing? I'll ask about it later. Chi-yun's face darkened, where is Chi Ling now? I'll go ask Mr. Chi right away, the steward said, turning to the maid and telling the maid, enter Mr. Chi well. Yes. The butler turned around and walked out, never to come back again. Chi-yun sat alone in the hall and waited for half an hour. The tea was changed one after another, waiting for him to lose his patience and lose his temper. Then he saw a pretty and calm maid walk in. Wei Wei blessed his body, young Master Chi. Chi-yun said nothing with a sullen face. Although his father already had him as his legitimate son when he went to the fiefdom, Chi-yun was still young at that time. Since he can remember, he has been the most noble young master in the Genbei King fiefdom. Apart from his father, he has the highest status. The most powerful. The children of the Mayanbei generation's aristocratic families, including the young city lord in the fiefdom, all looked up to him, and no one dared to ignore him like this. The eldest princess made him wait for half an hour, which was really good. Minjiao seemed not to notice Chi-yun's unhappy expression, and said calmly, my eldest princess is in the flower hall in the west courtyard, and she asked the maid to take Master Chi there. Chi-yun suppressed his anger and stood up and said, let's go. He wanted to see what kind of extraordinary ability a 15-year-old girl had to dare to be so arrogant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 229. Chi-yun did not expect to see such a scene. The flower hall facing the lake is exquisite and spacious, with beautiful scenery. There are several young men sitting in the hall, with white clothes as white as snow, red clothes as fiery, and blue robes flowing. A 15-year-old girl is sitting alone on the railing, holding a cup of tea in her hand, and is lazily closing her eyes to rest. The ethereal sound of the piano is flowing from the fingertips of the young man in red clothes, melodious and pleasant like the sound of nature. Chi-yun stood on the bridge and watched the scene in the flower hall in silence. If you put aside your identity, the scene in front of you is so beautiful that it makes people feel that it is an extreme enjoyment. It's just that the roles are completely reversed. It should be a powerful man leaning on the railing, surrounded by beauties, instead of a group of 7-foot men serving a woman. It's ridiculous. Chi Yun's expression is not very good, especially after seeing Chi Ling in white clothes making tea. He was furious and walked over quickly. Your Highness. Minjiao walked into the flower hall and saluted Chu Qing Huang. Mr. Qi is here. Chi Yun calmed down instantly. This was the residence of the eldest princess. No matter how absurd she was the emperor's daughter after all. He shouldn't be too presumptuous. Chu Qing Huang hummed lazily and lowered her head to sip tea. Your Highness. Chi Yun bowed. I pay my respects to your Highness the eldest princess. Chu Qing Huang turned to look at him. Chi Yun raised his eyes slightly and happened to meet the beautiful and stunning face of the girl. He was stunned for a moment, and then he couldn't help but lose his mind. What a beautiful girl! So this is the eldest princess of the royal family, Chu Qing Huang? Chi Yun thought about it and felt that she was nothing like the description of violent and capricious in the rumors. Although the girl looked a little colder and more distant, it did not damage her beautiful face that seemed to be carefully carved by God. Such a beautiful and unworldly girl could not be licentious and immoral. Don't you want your eyes? A cold and murderous voice sounded, and Chi Yun suddenly came back to his senses and met a pair of icy black eyes. He frowned and subconsciously wanted to get angry, but he didn't know what he thought of, and he suppressed his anger again. Your Highness, the Princess. Chi Yun bowed again. I, Chi Yun, the son of the King of Zhenbei, come to see your Highness today. No need to be polite. Chu Qing Huang said indifferently. I heard that you want to see Chi Ling. Yes. Chi Yun couldn't help but look at Chu Qing Huang's face, and the more he looked, the more fascinated he became. Your Highness, well, it's not entirely to see Chi Ling. The sound of the piano was melodious, and the fragrance of tea was curling. Several people in the flower hall stopped their actions at the same time. The sound of the piano stopped under the fingertips of Hong Yu, who was playing the piano. Chi Ling put down the teapot. Chu Ling Chuan and Shen Zongjin, who were checking the accounts, also put down their pens. Wen Zhan, who was reviewing his homework, slowly closed the book. 5 pairs of eyes fell on Chi Yun's face, with scrutiny, hostility, ridicule, and obvious displeasure. Are you Chi Ling's brother? Shen Zongjin stroked his chin and looked him up and down, as if he was evaluating some goods. Your appearance is not as good as Chi Ling's, your demeanor is not as good as Chi Ling's, well, you don't look as pleasing to the eye as Chi Ling, which really disappoints me. It really proves the saying, it's better to hear about it than to meet it. Chi Yun's expression froze instantly after he finished speaking. As a minister, the way you looked at Her Royal Highness the Princess just now was really presumptuous. Hong Yu frowned and said in a cold voice, this young master really wants to dig out your eyes and use them to soak in wine. Chi Yun's face gradually darkened. He couldn't believe that these humble servants in the backyard of the eldest princess dared to talk to him like this. There was no distinction between the superior and the inferior, and there was no rules at all. Chi Ling, he turned his head and looked at Chi Ling, his tone cold, don't you recognize me? It's damnable that he didn't know how to stand up and salute his brother. Chi Ling looked up at him nonchalantly. Didn't Mr. Qi just introduce himself formally? I have heard a little about Chi Yun, the legitimate son of the King of Zhenbei. Puff. Hong Yu couldn't help laughing. We have also heard a little about him. Chi Yun's face turned the color of liver. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 230. Chi Ling. Chi Yun looked at him gloomily. You are really brave. Hong Yu sighed. In front of Her Royal Highness the Princess, Master Qi is really good at showing off. Chi Yun looked at him coldly. Who are you? To be here at this time? Who do you think I am? Hong Yu asked. Anyone with a little brain can guess it. Does this mean that Chi Yun has no brain at all? Chi-yun gritted his teeth and slowly swept his eyes over the young men with outstanding looks in the flower hall. Thinking that he only brought 2 guards today, he had to temporarily give up the plan to bring an army to punish Qi Ling because he was outnumbered. Turning his head to look at Chu Qing Huang, Chi-yun couldn't help but be absent-minded for a moment, and suddenly had an idea in his mind. He wanted to ask the emperor to marry the princess. Such a beautiful woman should have married the best man and received the most favor. He would definitely give her everything she wanted, let her gallop on the prairie in Mayanbei and enjoy the feeling of galloping in the wind. None of the sons of the imperial family can match her. These male favorites who only know how to show off their beauty and talk are not qualified to be favored by her. Marrying him is the best choice for her. The emperor is far away in Mayanbei. If she marries him, she will no longer be bound by palace rules and no longer have to abide by royal etiquette. She just needs to treat him with respect, honor his parents for him, give him a big fat son, and raise him in the future. He will definitely treat her well and give her a lot of love. Strong winds swept past my ears. The red shadow flew into the air like lightning, and kicked Chi-yun in the chest. Chi-yun was kicked away without any defense, and fell far away with a bang. His bones seemed to be broken. Chi-yun's back hit the ground, and his facial features were pale and distorted in pain. His internal organs seemed to be displaced, and he didn't recover for a long time. "Sir," the 2 guards were horrified and rushed over to help Chi-yun up. "Sir, how are you?" Hong Yu stared at Chi-yun, his voice cold. "I have reminded you just now. If you don't want those eyes, I don't mind picking them off and soaking them in wine." Chu Qinghuang's eyes turned slightly and looked at someone with fists. "Calm down." Fu Kang's eyes fell slightly, met Chu Qinghuang's calm eyes, slowly loosened his clenched hands, and forced himself to calm down. Can't kill people casually. If Hong Yu hadn't acted in time just now, he almost. Fu Kang suppressed his murderous aura. Although the legitimate son of the Zhenbei king deserved to die, he shouldn't die at this time, and he shouldn't die in the princess's mansion. He couldn't cause trouble for his master. "Don't pretend to be dead." Hong Yu glanced at Chi-yun coldly, turned back and sat down in front of the piano. This young master didn't use any strength at all. Others heard the words and turned to look at him silently. Didn't use any strength? Chi-yun was badly hurt when he fell just now. You are a 16-year-old boy who knocked down an adult man who looked much stronger than you, and you still said that you didn't use much strength. This is not how you should be modest. Chi-yun, who fell to the ground, felt a sharp pain in his internal organs, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He endured the pain and stood up with the help of 2 guards. He looked at Hong Yu with a gloomy look. "You dash. What's wrong with me?" Hong Yu raised his chin and said arrogantly, "Do you want to spar with me?" Chi-yun gritted his teeth and almost wanted to cut him into pieces. "Just wait for me." He covered his chest with his hand and gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "I came to see the princess with respect today, but I was injured by you, a little servant. I will definitely let the emperor know about this. Let's see how you explain it later." He saluted Chu Qinghuang and turned to leave. The flower hall was as quiet as snow. Except for Chu Qinghuang, who looked like nothing happened, the other 5 pairs of eyes stared at Chi-yun's back as he left, and no one spoke. Chi-yun walked a few steps, expecting that someone would call him and apologize to him, so that he could make that arrogant guy kneel down and apologize to him, and he would definitely teach him a lesson and let him know that he was not a vegetarian. However, it was very quiet behind him. He walked a few steps, no one spoke, and walked a few more steps, still very quiet. Chi-yun stopped and turned to look in the direction of the flower hall, his tone gloomy and angry. "Kneel down and apologize to this young master now, and this young master will only whip you and let you go, otherwise I will report it to the emperor and you will be in trouble. One is the legitimate son of the king of Zhenbei, and the other is a lowly male favorite. If the matter really comes to the emperor, it will be clear who the emperor will punish, and he doesn't believe that this lowly thing will really be fearless.